So let's get started. Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it when people come to the live stream. If you can, if it's in your time zone, and apart from that, you attend my session or you watch my recordings. But apart from watching Netflix, you really have nothing going on around this time. I'd love if you guys popped into the stream. It means a lot for my channel. Also, the more people that attend the stream, the more I the more of my viewers get notifications, I think. The more I stream as well. For a while I didn't stream and no one got any notifications. So I read up on it and it says just inactivity generally, or lack of likes and stuff like that in my videos. Apparently that's affecting the way people get notifications. So if you can, drop a like or join on the after hours and leave a like, something like that might help. Notifications distributed a little bit better for my channel. I'm not at 100 subscribers yet, so YouTube is still not taking me seriously. As soon as we hit 100,000 subscribers, maybe things will change for the channel a little bit. But until then, see what you can do to keep the just the distribution of my channel's name going with your friends or anyone who's interested in art. So a couple of announcements. Mac release for Portrait Studio is coming on the 1st of February. I will do a video announcement and description about all the stuff that will be left out, will be included, all the details of where to buy it. I can do it on pre-release, but that's kind of stupid. There's really no need to do a pre-release. It's a software. Yeah, it'll be available for everyone. It's been a long time since we've officially started work on the Mac release. We started it in, I think, July 2018. And we first had a look at it in 2017. Mac makes it very difficult for publishers and creators and developers. So we managed to get through, and it will officially be released on February 1st, God willing. Hopefully there's no weird obstacle in the way. There is a community challenge starting on February 1st as well. Please prepare for it. I will send out a resource pack for that day. It'll be the same resource pack we used for the previous villain challenge. Patrons will also be included in the villain challenge, but theirs will be a little different. So if you're interested in being a patron, you still have some time left to complete this month's assignment, and then start on the villain challenge for next month. If you want to get all of my content, all of my videos, you can do so by joining as an apprentice or as an initiate. You guys will get video time-lapse and as well as my commentary on all of my personal work that I complete month by month. But for 2018, I released all of my paid content for Patreon. I release it the next year for those who just can't afford it or they missed out on it. What happens is that I have to consistently delete 2 months at a time, maybe delete all Patreon rewards because there are some thieves that are distributing my links to other people and joining on Patreon and giving out what they receive on Patreon. Lots of weird pirating and weird stuff happening here and there, the bigger my channel gets. But I have released it. I eventually release everything to you guys. Brushes are a little different because I put a lot of my heart into them. But videos and process and my paintings, of course, I release them to the public just at the end of the year. A little bit delayed this time around, but I still made it. 2018 Patreon time-lapse videos, all free content now. All of the paintings that you've seen me complete on my after hours, the Grey Witch, the Catacombs, Gorgon, a lot of my studies from the years before, and of course I'm talking to my patrons in these, so it's not as kind of general a lesson as my other videos. But if you guys want to get a hold of these, they're free now and available on my channel. I'm not sure if you guys were around YouTube yesterday, but there was like a massive spam upload on my channel, and my channel kind of freaked out a little bit, but I think everything is normal now. Everything's just up and live. If you don't see between February, or if you don't see the February, March, just wait a day and it'll show up, because I uploaded like 12 videos at the same time. That's why I will publish 12 videos. And that's it. Let's get started on today's lesson. Last class, Tuesday, I did a class on skin tones. We were talking about how to make skin look realistic, why some of the skin tones you guys paint feel a little bit kind of plain or outside of the texture. So I'll be covering that with you guys today. But I want to thank you guys for completing the homework that I requested. It means a lot. This channel belongs to you. So whatever I request, whatever you guys want to work on, it's just great if you guys give that back. Let me know, give feedback on what you want to see, complete the homework for it, provide me with the homework, and I'll provide you with the critique hour and the lesson and all the information pertaining to your mistake or fundamental to be taught. So if the more you bring in, the more you get back. And oh, and one really massive announcement is I didn't pull any homework today from the Google community. The Google community is officially closed until it's been deleted. So it hasn't been deleted yet. I do request that people double post here and then the Reddit, because just in case for some reason Google Plus doesn't shut down. It seems like they are full steam ahead shutting it down, but I just want to have that back record. So I did not choose anything from here. If you posted here and your work didn't get looked at, it's because you're not posting on Reddit. Please move over into Reddit. There's 500 people in Reddit and there's 9,000 people on the Google community. Please move there. Spread the word, please. I beg you. Spread the word. Maybe comment on some of these viewers here, on some of the people who are posting recently who haven't gotten the message yet. It's right here, tipped at the top, pinned at the top of the community. Please spread the word that we are moving over into Reddit. I'm only looking at stuff from Reddit. Reddit is a lot more easy to use, and it's easier for me to organize and easier for my mods to use. So yeah, please move over into Reddit. Thank you. So let's get started on this piece here. So I'm just gonna, if you don't know what I'm doing, if you don't know all the fundamentals behind what I'm correcting, it's because you haven't watched last Tuesday's class, and that's the class uploaded right before this one. Actually, no, because I just uploaded 12 videos. No, it's the skin tone video right before the January Patreon video that I just uploaded. If you don't know what I'm doing, if you don't know why I'm using white, why I'm not using certain colors, why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that, it's because it's in full detail in the previous video, and I can't completely give out the lesson again all over, just a repeat of last lesson, because I have all these pieces to go through. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, stop the video and watch the previous video on this subject from this week. Okay, so one of the first problems I'm seeing is, sorry, my monitor is really positioned very weird. It's just a bit of a dim background value. I always, just in case for cautionary, just to make sure that, you know, things are as bright as they need, I just slide this around just to make sure that it still looks right. It does need to be a little bit brighter. Before it was just a little dim, and I don't notice this unless I do it. Sometimes it'll just look almost okay, and I won't test it and find the much better, more optimal version of the background's light environment value. I'm blending away the temple. It's a little bit sharp. Okay, a little bit of value sharing here. Alright, I'm just correcting some basic form-related changes, making sure the sphere feels like an actual sphere in an open environment with a top-down light, making sure all the shadows pull towards the lower half of the canvas, and the lower half of the face. Bringing in more grays. Alright, so your problems are the skin tone is good and desaturated, subtlety is good, but also accuracy with your values. I think you need a little bit more redness. Things are a little too yellow, a little too green. I would saturate just a little bit just so we can get, so let me just oversaturate for a second just to get the right temperature. And then bring the saturation down. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to find a vibrance here between the levels, the saturation, and the hue that'll work with this light environment, because what happened was the skin tone you were using was really dull. So in order for me to estimate exactly how much I need, I have to oversaturate for a second. Okay, so before I did all this craziness, do you see where your colors were? Alright, so before, very dull, very gray. So subtlety is key, but don't paint a zombie. We want still a skin tone that feels real, feels realistic, that feels flushed. There's pink in everyone. Everyone has a bit of pink in them. And if it's a deep brown value, then that pink turns into more of an eggplanty, orangey, kind of like a cool red color, but there is still a hint of warm in there. And what you had before was much too green and much too dull. Next, I'm moving into the vibrant color that reflects the light source, and that is the color that is independent of the skin tone. The light source color is independent of the skin tones. So write that back, please. So what does that mean? Does anyone have an answer to that? What do I mean the light source color is independent of the skin tones? Why don't I just blend beige with white, yellow, and just get the color I want? Why am I using the exact raw color of the light source? Level up the volume. My volume hasn't been touched at all since I started. I did bring the mic a little closer to me. I'm also feeling a little bit weak today, so I'm not amplifying my voice as much. I'm using the same light source color everywhere along the face, and what this does is unify all the objects that are receiving this light source color in low opacity. I mean, it's 83%, and I'm pressing very light. Anything that receives this color is now attached to the same environment. Things are waking up, and skin is very dewy and very wet. It's consistently oily. Sometimes it's a little more oily, sometimes it's a little less, but there is always a little bit of oil on the skin, and that's reflecting the true nature of the light source color, which is a very pale white I'm using here. Make sure that we are staying on topic. Yes, please stay on topic. Light source color is independent. Volume is low. I just use a volume boost app. The light source color is independent. The skin color is an interaction between the light color and the skin natural. Light source color is white. Yes. So the reason why we keep the exact same light source color is because the water surfaces, whatever the water, even the oils, reflect the real nature. They're mirror. They have a mirror quality. So reflective objects or reflective materials, reflective substances have a mirror-like quality to them. So what we're doing is we're recreating this mirror-like texture quality, and we're bringing in all of this white light because of the oil sitting on the face, and we're creating a sheen right now on the face that reflects the light source. Right, so all these little areas where wetness is pooling, especially on the nose can get very reflective, and lots of bounce light can sit in that area. Let me just lower my opacity strength here. Right, lots and lots and lots of white on the wetness of the eyes. The most wet areas are the eyes and the face. That's where we get all our glitter from. Lots of that same color. I'm using the same value, and this is the exact value I'm using right here. Okay, I'm using this exact same color everywhere, and you'll see the difference in a second. And that's the secret to painting skin tone, making sure you're using the same light source color, because that's what's going to bring out that vibrance. As for color zones, quote unquote, you know my issue with color zones and calling them that. I'm going to get my desaturation brush and just, which is just sponge tool on desaturation mode. And I'm just going to desaturate some of the brighter areas on the face, because white equals no color. So desaturating some of these will help create a realism. I'm desaturating around the eyes and around the eyes, not the eyelids. The eyelids can stay pink. I'm also desaturating almost to a gray the white of the eyes. You've kind of brought in a skin tone on top. Do not bring in skin tones on eye whites, please. I'm going to bring in a little bit of an extra dodge tool. Like, I'm very careful with dodge tool, very picky with dodge tool. And I'm just bringing some of it in here to bring in that extra pink, like a dodge color. Dodge tool does this thing where it brings in the saturated nearby neon version of that color, and I'm just using that here. I'm going to bring in some of that same brightness color that I used on the inner eye corner on the eyelid. Eyelids are very, very oily, and I'm just going to ignite some of it around the waterline. So skin zones, again, I'm just desaturating around here, bringing in some of that gray. I'm bringing in a little bit of a, it's going to go again. Sorry about this. I really don't know why this is happening. I don't know why OBS disconnects. I don't know why it's doing that. I have no friggin' clue why it's doing that. I think it did it last time too. I have no idea what the heck. I'm bringing in some desaturation around the nose, and I'm going to saturate in the cheek areas right here. And that's just going to bring out the mid-tone brightness value, but saturated. So the brighter mid-tone, saturated version of it really wakes up the skin tone. This is just with sponge tool on soft brush with saturate at 9%. I'm going to saturate the mouth on the interior of the mouth, just on the inner parts. A little bit of redness around the chin. Sometimes the chin gets a little redness. A bit more redness around the eyelids and the crease. Desaturate on eyebrows into gray. And then of course, just like we did last time, desaturate on the scalp. Don't skip this one. I just want you guys to remember that scalps are, when we're painting a bald person, they're just bald. Okay, they don't have hair there. It's not going to be skin tone over there. Just to remind you guys. I may have to desaturate for subtlety. -5, let's say. And we'll do a before and after. Again, if you don't understand why I changed a lot of these, it's because you haven't watched the first video. Please go watch them. I can't go into depth again with where we were last time. So before, after, and you can slide these hues over into a bit more yellow. You can do a yellow. You can do a touch more red. This is acceptable red. Maybe a little bit too much around the mouth now that we saturated and shifted because the mouth is already pink. Alright, you can shift things all the way over here for a skin tone. It just depends on your light environment and what's happening. But what I'm doing is I'm going to shift it over into yellow just a little bit. I'm just leaving it at a nice medium. Okay, so before, after. Not a lot of reflection. Skin tone is a texture. Skin is a texture. It has a lot of reflective power in it, and it has lots of water, and it's very smooth altogether. I mean, it's not neon chrome, but it's still smooth enough that values tend to travel across it very easily, and you can see shine. To advance this painting a little further, I would bring in the background value and bring in some bounce light. And then what I would do is just clean up all these areas. The ears, stop the bounce light from, and I just make sure that eraser looks a little like that. It's the most subtle little addition, but it's very, very effective in helping unify the background value with the object. So before, after. Okay, I'm just going to stop it from getting too close to the chin. As for the eyes, in fact, let me just leave the eyes alone because eyes can be this color, though not very often. Lips can be a little bit less red for females. You can bring the lips down all the way like this and it'll still be acceptable. What we're doing is we're completely desaturating. However, lips that get this dark or deliberately this dark, they have more of a like a makeup on them or a darker brown lipstick. However, remember that if you are bringing the lips down to a more nude value, you have to raise the value up because in order for it to have red as red, it had to be dark because red is a dark value. Okay, let's move on. I wanted to take a look at this study here, and the problem with this study is that you have all your base tones intact. For the one we just looked at, because I cooled it down and moved it over into reds, I didn't need to cool down the shadows as much. I mean, if you want to use all your tools, all your weapons, go ahead. But I felt like the skin was exactly where it should be. If you wanted to improve it, you can bring in a cool to the one we just completed. But this one, I'm just going to get a pure white. And I'm going to show you kind of where you're missing on a lot of these. Okay, and then I'm desaturating where I just included white. This is what's missing in a lot of these skin tones. When you're doing these kinds of circular studies, you're preparing for areas that are going to be purely shiny. So this white is considering the forehead, the nose tip, the water in the eyes, and the inner corner. You don't have enough of this. I like how you added purple on this one. This is beautiful. You did wonderfully, but you do need a white in all of these. The missing white is what's causing a lot of these skin tones that you guys paint to feel so dull and so matte and unnatural. Adding that little touch of white is what's going to bring out the vibrancy. So white doesn't occupy this much of the face though. Remember, this is just a circular study basing it off the color behavior. White doesn't occupy this much of the face. I mean, this is the smallest little areas that actually do get pure white on them. Remember, the brush that I used was large, but the tip of the brush is very, very small. Caucasian and Asian. Caucasian does not look like this. This is Middle Eastern. This is Mediterranean. If this was Caucasian, I would make these changes. First of all, value goes up, saturation goes down, and shift into pinks. I would also move into the levels and shift those up as well. So I would say this looks a little bit more like Caucasian, keeping desaturation down. Caucasian is not that much of a skip away from pale. Okay, so where you were before was very, very Mediterranean. Orange, glowing kind of a value. Olive, sort of. And olive, I don't know. I don't like when people say that there's olive skin tones. I mean, I get it. There might be a little bit of green because it's Eastern or Middle Eastern or tan without a lot of blush. I mean, a lot of Indian faces, such as my face. I'm not Indian, but I'm Arab. I don't have a natural blush color all the time. Maybe if I'm like, I just got out of a workout, yeah, I'll have blush on my face, but I just naturally am a sandy motherfucker. So I don't have a lot of blush. That's why I'm always using lipstick and stuff, because I just look very dead without it. And that's just the complexion that I have. Illness might also be a factor. So I've told you guys before, less blushed face is a more sick face. So my face does get a little bit like that. But naturally the complexion doesn't have a lot of blush in it. So this is a very rich, dark color. I mean, this is almost, we would categorize it as black, these values that you've chosen today. So it is not what we would call, and this is still so washed out right now. It just needs a lot more editing. Something like that, I think, is a little bit more Caucasian. And remember, Asian and Caucasian have very similar skin tones. I just think that you're shift over into the yellows and the more duller colors. Not duller, but paler colors that pull from yellow pale, not pink pale. This pure pale here, I wouldn't even give this the skin tones of characters unless they are deliberately pale, like they are, like you're trying to make them look like some sort of ice character or something like that. But I've seen skin tones this beautiful, vibrant pink. I love what they have, but the thing is, you're missing the purple, the pure purple, which comes through. And I would just pull this purple here, use a color mode, and I would place that purple right along the saturation line, just over here, just to prepare for the fact that I will use this purple in this texture eventually. And purple might even sit on the, let me just do this. Purple might even sit on top of the highlight here. As for your bounce light color, I hope you're using the actual environment color. Bounce light does not come from the skin. Bounce light comes from the environment. So if you're trying to incorporate this character in there, and I think you did, you have to use the background color. And then that's the Terminator you end up getting back. This is great here. I think what you need to do is saturate another little bit. It's actually just exactly this color, just less vibrant. And what we're missing here is more redness just along the bend of this Terminator. I think I see a lot of this in darker faces. For this, there isn't much saturation, so what I'm going to do is desaturate the midtone and leave this. This is what I would say is more Caucasian, but we do sometimes have patches of purple and patches of pink in Caucasian. So I would say a little purple won't hurt in the cools. And a little pink won't hurt in the warms. Just around the rim of every single highlight or shadow. It's never directly on top of the highlight or shadow. It's always beside it. And then Asian, way too saturated here unless they're tanned. And this is what I mean by subtlety, just the saturation and the midtones. However, don't be subtle with how bright it needs to be if there really was a lot of brightness in that area. As for the whites of the eyes, sometimes the darker the complexion, the darker the eye white, but usually we do have a nice brightness in the eye. As an eye study, though, you do need to work on your edge work and blending here. And then the whites of the eyes are very yellow, but this area is very pink, this area is very orange. So you're working with strange averages that keep changing. Make sure you're choosing the right value to pull from. Okay, so before, very olive, very Mediterranean. Kind of, I've never seen a person with this kind of skin tone unless it was a bad tan. After. It still feels a little washed out to me because of the edits I had to make with the levels, but still a jump toward Caucasian at least. I would, maybe the correction would, that's all I need is a burn tool on midtones. Just so that shadow just behaves like a shadow when it needs to be. I think that's enough. Okay, remember, white does not occupy this much. This is just a sphere study. White should occupy based off water, actual pools of water in the face. This piece, I mean, the fix is very obvious. Select inverse, way too much exposure. Your background should generally be lighter than your object, so, and this just prepares you for what you need in midtones. So I'm bringing this all the way down, saturation all the way up. I'm going to find a good skin tone, peach color, not too yellow, not too red. Bring that back down, right, so that's a good base tone. And then, of course, you just follow up with all the extra little things I just added. So we would bring in that white yellow. And then just add it where we need to add it. This is what I mean by the white not taking up that much. Look at this tiny little area I'm bringing the white in. And anywhere that gets pure white is a small little area, small little patch of extra light in that area that can receive that much light. But really low opacity when I work big with the white value. Right, the nose is very shiny, so it'll get a little bit more. Chin. And then desaturate the eyebrows, they're glowing. And then we would move a bit too desaturated, but that's okay. And then this blush color that you're using, I would actually just bring in a whole new color, but for the sake of time, I'll just borrow something you have. Actually, sometimes you need to do a blush color with normal, not color layer. Because it does not work with color, depending on the vibrancy or the amount of brightness. Okay. And then I'm just desaturating a lot of these areas here. And this is just a one step forward toward a better depiction of skin tones. You do have a lot of issues floating around with your form. I really recommend you perfect you know, your symmetries and all of that. 0. Pushing it a bit more towards pink, desaturating. And just this whole patch is just way too yellow, like it's green almost. It's got like a greenness to it. So I have to select this patch specifically. And just looking at my navigator, see what I can do. This is not how I paint, but I'm trying to show you guys shifts in the values. So this is where it was. Desaturated, touch towards pink. And I think that's a good position for what we have here at the top. Get some of that skin tone in there. Just use that to block everywhere where we have some brightness. And that should bring out some of that environment value. Oop, look what we found. Value sharing. Okay, and then I'm blending that out. And all these decisions, a lot of the tonal changes in color and the hue changes, I detect them on a slider and the navigator. So really look at your navigator if you can. I mean, you have to enable your nav. If your Photoshop doesn't have navigator on, I don't know. I don't know how to punish you. I really wouldn't know where to start. Before, object is now darker than the background, has more believable peach tones, red to them. The whites of the eyes are way too dark and way too red. You're pretty much depicting a bloodshot eye. Your nose core shadow, your nose edge work needs help, but these are some good starting places right now to fix your color. So please step away from color for a while. Focus on your grayscales, make sure they're perfect. Once you fix your edges, I mean, not a while, that's not fair. You had a pretty symmetrical face, but work on your edge work and then try this color study again. Right, transferring from grayscale to color can be dangerous if a student doesn't understand their light environment and the nature of every color. Yellow needs brightness, red needs shadow. Purple, there's a cool version of every color. It's not purple that you throw over into everything. You have to find the cool version of every color. People who transfer from grayscale to color go ahead and just grab a full-on purple and put it on top, and they wonder why it doesn't work and why it looks muddy. Your contrast has to be enough. Your light exposure in your light environment has to allow color to begin with. If you're trying to force too much color in a dark light environment, you're going to get muddy. Mud is dark and saturated, and that's what you're trying to avoid. Dark but saturated doesn't exist. That's when you get those freaky deaky colors. Then I'm gonna do this one here. Oops. Right. Select inverse. And just raising the background value. Select inverse, same thing, darkening the color, saturating, darkening, saturating, and if I'm going to oversaturate. If I oversaturate and I see, wow, I've oversaturated and there's still this massive lag in the forehead, it means the forehead is doing its own thing. You don't have balanced values. Also, I'm saturating so much, almost no color is coming through, but we're at 72 points saturated. So we'll go back to 0, and it's just way too desaturated, man. I'm darkening it because I have to. Your color was way too washed out before. Way too much exposure in certain areas. So I'm darkening just in case, saturating as a result. And I'm just shifting over into some reds. And what I'm going to do now is just mess around with the levels, see what I can correct. But this is how I critique hour. This is not how you're supposed to paint. Remember, painting is very different. You're doing this in good order. You're making sure that you have a nice saturated base tone that reflects the light environment as well as the character you're going for. I'm not going to gray out the forehead, the head just in a... I will in a second, but for now I'm just going to find a decent average color for the top half of the sphere, because your sphere isn't looking like an actual sphere in an open space. What that's going to do is raise the values for us. There's just this big patch of green, so what I'm going to do is just find the base tone and throw it back on. I think you guys have really just taken that yellow bit in the white way too seriously, or you guys just overdid it. Yellow in the white, we're still close to orange. It's a yellow orange. It's not a green yellow. I think that's where a lot of you are bringing in this super greenish yellow here. Right, and then this shadow down here, way too dark, considering how bright and how exposed everything was before. You weren't matching your light environment. Some of you guys really don't know how to let the face just not be that dark towards the lower half. And the thing that can be dark towards the lower half is just the shadow, the little tucking of the neck and the chin. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm just getting my blocking brush and Just creating that distinction between the edges. And then now that I have my base tone nice and stabilized, I'll go back. See how dark it was before? I'll go back and reintroduce that yellow white again. But the thing is, everything is already so bright even after all my editing. I'm just going to try my best not to overdo it. Right. The whites in the eyes are a little bit too, I mean the darks in the eyes is like makeup at this point. And I'm using the same value. If you did not use the same value, if you went and picked around, then this is what's happened. That green that you might have had around the eyes, that might have been you trying that translucency in that green patch. Try not to mess around too much with quote-unquote color zones. Just do what you can for a really basic template for a commercial face, just a very basic skin tone set, nice cool values, accurate mid-tone to its light environment. See what you can do for the basics first, and then think about those really, really translucent skin tones, the sickly, the villainous, the super saturated and over makeup, kind of like the Barbie doll face, or the really, really dark face, the desaturated, not much blush, but still youthful and beautiful. Try the different like customizations, let's call them. As for this, remember to cool down a value. You just have to shift into reds. It was nice and cool, but I'm not sure how much my editing has affected. As for the whites in the eyes, right now the value is too dark. The whites of the eyes can get the tint of the eye color, but they still have to be white enough. So new layer. Trying to work fast here. And then I'm just erasing. The eye gaze is kind of off right now. Things are looking in different directions. But hopefully this is helping the eyes feel a little bit less sickly. Again, they were very dark before. As for the color of the eyes, it's not a believable green. What's happening is that there's none of the light environment in them. Oh my god. I don't know why it's disconnecting. Oh my god, son of a bitch. I thought I turned off all of my notifications. Windows piece. Ugh, where is it? Where is the notification tray? I disabled that too. Alright, just a little bit more of that white color. So right now we're painting the vibrant, the reflective quality of the skin. We're not even painting with skin tones anymore. And then I'm just picking a mid-tone from anywhere and getting rid of that excessive shadow you have above the eye. Don't depend on makeup to pull off a read. It's just immature. Try to find the skin tone version of it. And if you find yourself jumping into Dodge Tool for skin tones, you're not really painting skin. You're depending too much on your tools that feel like valid ways to climb and saturate, but they're not. They may look nice, but it's because your tastes are bad right now. As a student, you don't have a taste for what's realistic. That's kind of a taste, an instinct that you build. So just because it looks good to you doesn't mean it's right. Now that might be hard to hear for some of you. Okay, as for the face shape, I'm not going to critique too much on face shapes. Good job. I think you desaturated the eyebrows. I'm not sure if that was me, but the saturation level is good on the eyebrows. I'm just going to saturate a little bit more. And I don't know why it feels like there's a gradient. It might be just my monitor. But we'll look at the before. Before, way too washed out. Felt like there was a fog over everything. The skin tone being darker than the background is just, you can't really fail with that. I feel like you do have a little bit more work to do for the spherical shape of the head. For instance, there's these really, really amazing trend lines that help you establish. I'm just going to use the background value here to show where they are. Really nice trend lines here, 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 and a contour, and of course the top of the head that help you pop the head out of its environment. Okay, I might brighten the background a little bit more, but where it is right now is a step forward. The more you advance, maybe the more we'll find issues as we continue. And then we've got these values here. Oh my. So you chose the second one, which is the pale, and you have these really deep patches of black all around the nose. So because I'm running out of time, I want you to adjust all of these as I adjusted them today, and I'm going to just let you know where to start. Get rid of all the black in the face completely, from the eyebrows to the eyelids, to the eye creases, to the nose, everything. See if you can adjust these. See if you can paint these values without depending too much on black. Because as I said earlier, a saturated black or a black among color is just making it look muddy. So when we get rid of, see, I don't want to correct them because then the student will know what to do, and I don't want them to. I want them to just attempt it. I'm just getting rid, I'm using a mid-tone here somewhere to just get rid of all of black you have. And just unify everything based off a darker mid-tone. You're really outside of this, what I just did with lightened layer, you really don't have much going on. Alright, these are way too pale, way too just close to gray. They should be somewhere over here in your mid-tone value, sorry, somewhere over here. Then you have these nice whites, which are great, but then you have these really strange orangey, reddish patches moving all around. The lips are over outlined and not blended. So I encourage you guys to try your color studies, and thank you so much for handing in your homework. I think you did great on this little saturation belt. But right now where you are in your ability to draw, like just with your cast shadows, what you're doing with the nose, what you're doing with the nose core shadow, how dependent you are on the inner shadow over here, you need to jump into your grayscales and stay there for a good while until you are able to draw a face without depending on your native, not native, what do you call them? Just those inherited bad habits from your time with lines. Whatever that time was, it manifests differently between each artist. Yeah, try to focus on the less than you guys. I'm not sure what's going on up here. There's like a million deleted messages, but just take it easy. Don't shade with black. Write that back to me. Black has no role in skin tones unless a black eyeshadow has been used on the face. You're shading with variations of the peach mid-tone as the light environment allows. If it's a dark enough scene, we will have black, but we'll have black everywhere because there's just not enough light to show the human. Humans don't glow in the dark, but there will be an amount and time and place to use black. But it's not even black. Color does a very funny little ladder climb. It goes between the houses, I guess, of cool relevant to the starting mid-tone before it finally finds black. It kind of just does a little. So peach moves into orangey red, which ends up moving into cherry red, which ends up moving into a more purpley red, which finally goes into a very purpley navy-ish kind of red, which finally enters black. It does those levels first. There's no just straight bam, just right into black. From peachy to gray to black. We just don't do that. Skin tones are, skin is translucent. It's somewhat transparent. So that means that it has some light inside of it, allowing the red to shine through and glow out, which means we don't just jump into gray black right away. We have just a different amount of light in the skin, creating some kind of effect. We have the water on top of the skin, creating some kind of effect with the light source, usually a more white, pale, universal value, and then it just, that's pretty much what it is. Then you have translucency in skin, which is the purples in the skin, greens in the skin, all that stuff. So I hope today's class has been a nice little addition to our theme this week. I don't have a theme for next week. I'm going to try to just see what you guys hand in and keep it like a miscellaneous critique hour. But if I do see a trend in your studies, if I see some responses to today's class, I will take a look at everything on repeat on the 29th, Tuesday. To recap, please leave the Google Plus community or double post if you don't want to leave it yet, and move into the Reddit community and join it, please, please, please. Keep an eye out for pins at the top of the community. The pins are very, very important. I will be releasing the resource pack for the Villain Challenge very soon. Mac release is on the 1st of February. If you know a friend who's been waiting for it, for Mac, just let them know that it will be available on the 1st. I will have a video and a link to the store very soon. And then Patreon for anyone interested in supporting me and what I do. Even if you're just joining as a $1 patron, it does a lot. If a number of you join as a $1 patron, it does a lot for the community. So thank you guys so much. I will see you guys on Tuesday the 29th. Hopefully for more skin tones. If not, just keep doing what you're doing. Bye, everyone.